as you all know, this is your professor, Dr. Ayesha Nazuk here, and we have NUST Economic Society lecture, and we have with us Altamush Khan. His pseudonym or the nickname is Aatish, so you can also, before I started the talk, you observed that I played guitar, and at least I am a big fan of his guitar skill. He has good musical intelligence. So yeah, we can clap for this speaker. Okay, so a little bit of a formal introduction. He's a game designer, director, and Unity developer with a distinguished career in gaming industry since 2014. And he is reputed to, contributed to reputable gaming platforms since 2019, some of which include, you can see the names on the slide, I will just read one, Absologix. And I am really fascinated by his Python skill. One fine day I observed that he was doing video game development coding, and it was somewhere 13,000 line big code, and he was trying to debug something, and he was just speeding through the loops, and I was like, since I have the background, so I was a little bit of fancily impressed. So, and we have also submitted a joint research proposal to Pakistan Institute of Development Economics, because Aatish has a very, I could say, a one-liner advice for everyone, that you need to find your purpose in life. One of the purpose that drives him, I'm not inducing that, I've observed that drives him, that he wants to create cyberpreneurs, people who are not in dependency syndrome. So he delivers on Fiverr, Upwork, and he's a seasoned game developer. The clients include both from within the country and the global clients. He's also developing Udemy courses, and I've told you about his musical intelligence, and he has a great acumen for philosophy, so we have fruitful discussion in different intellectual spheres. He has been delivering lectures at think tanks like the Black Hole. So without further ado, I would hand over to Mr. Aatish.
All right, first of all, thank you for introducing me.
Yep.
So this is kind of like an interactive session. I don't really, I'm not a big fan of just delivering a lecture. I would like to know what the audience is like and what they would like to listen to, what they would like to hear. And my objective is always to provide value wherever I go. So how many of you like video games over here? Raise your hands. So it's going to be a difficult one for me. Only 2 people. All right. So how many of you, since there are only 2, how many of you would like to basically make video games because you love video games? You don't want to make video games because you love video games. Okay, how many of you want to be financially independent? No, raise your hands properly. Okay, so most of you here. Well, that's a nice thing, because if you want to develop games, you're basically stepping into an industry that produces billions of dollars annually. And even if you can get a small chunk from that, you will be financially independent, and I'm going to explain that. So first of all, I asked how many over here love to play video games. Unfortunately, there were only 2. I was expecting more. Of course, it was about game development, so I was expecting more. So how many of you can actually are passionate about business? Very passionate about business and very passionate about running a business, or just 2? All right? 3. Okay, cool. I'll move to the next slide because I was expecting a lot of people to actually love video games. So, before you get into anything, this is my suggestion for all of you. If you don't love something, you will find it difficult to actually progress fast in that. Basically, this slide was about that. So it says, your love for video games will make it easier for you to learn game development faster, especially if you love analyzing video games, listen to critics, and study game design. Most of you will agree that if you love something, you will progress faster than a person that does not love that thing. Can we all agree on that? right? So it's important that in whatever profession you choose, you have to love it. But I'm going to talk about something before we get into the purpose of today's talk, which is to give you a taste of game development and to basically give you an idea of what we do before we start creating a metaverse, and that is to create a player character controller. We are going to make a physics-based player character controller, and we are going to learn only the very basics of Unity game development. But before that, I'm speaking about why you would want to get into game development in the first place. Most of you want to be financially independent, so game development is a good profession if you want to be financially independent, because the industry is pretty large and you can use a variety of different skill sets to progress. So game development is less about game development and more about complex computer-related problems. It is less about playing video games. I'm sorry, it is not about playing video games. If you want to develop video games, it's less about playing video games, more about solving complex problems. And programming in general is about solving bugs and coming up with new solutions for a particular problem. And most of the time when we are programming or when we are developing video games, we are solving problems that somebody else has created. So you're basically correcting other people's mistakes, and sometimes it can be a very tedious task. Of course, playing video games is also a part of game development, and that's the fun part. That is a part that we usually do at the very end. Because as the game is being developed, the problem is that sometimes the game is not in a playable state. It is kind of in a broken state where you have a capsule, or you just have some colliders and cubes, and you're not exactly playing the game. You're basically trying to break the game instead of playing it. So that's not a fun part, but that is also a part of game development. So, I'm happy to be here because most of you, in one way I'm happy because most of you do not like playing video games, you're not passionate about it, but you do want to be financially independent. Most people in the video games industry are not passionate about game development. They are in fact passionate about making a product that will help them make a lot of money. Of course, that's a typo, it should be make a lot of money. But that is the reason why most people are in the game development field, because they're interested in making a product which is going to make a lot of money. So these are some of, all of you are from stats, right? You're stats students, is that correct, right? So here are some stats for you. The video game industry is worth more than $200 billion globally, which is larger than the film, television, and music industries combined, right? So once you get into game development or anything related to game development, you're stepping into that. In 2021, the global gaming market had 180 billion revenue. In comparison to 2022, film was worth 93.4 billion. Now that's a huge gap. Top games like Grand Theft Auto 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, Fallout, and the Call of Duty. I think the slide is missing from here. But basically, it stated that these games combined are made around $10 billion. These games alone made $10 billion. And the top grossing film, I believe it was Avatar. Somebody can correct me on that, but that was $4.8 billion, I believe. That is how much that. Yeah, but before that was, I think it was $4.8 billion or something like that. That's good, but I mean the top video games just blew it. I think Avatar made $4.8 billion. I think it made $4.8 billion. I think so. Because this is cut. I wrote it over here. Okay. So before getting into game development or anything these days, this is what investors basically invest in. You should know this. I don't think many people will tell you. The first thing that investors take a look at is trends. They don't really care whether the product's good or not, mates. They don't. They don't care about the product. They care about the trend, whether this idea will stick. Then they take a look at the hype behind a certain thing. So, how many of you know about blockchain and Metaverse? Blockchain, anybody? Cryptocurrency? How many people know about cryptocurrency? How many of you know about Bitcoin?
Don't know?
No, know about Bitcoin. Know about Bitcoin. You do, right? Was it something that I need to explain to you? If I say Bitcoin, do I need to explain it to you? All right. So what if I say what is Dogecoin? Or what is Monero? Would anybody know what Monero is? You know about Monero, but most people don't, right? So people are more likely, investors are more likely to invest in something that people already know about. And there's a hype behind Bitcoin that's going to change and revolutionize the way we spend money. So, and they also take a look at keywords. So what are the keywords like, you know, Bitcoin, Monero, cryptocurrency, revolutionize and innovate? These are all the keywords. And of course the brand. So if you've got a powerful brand, the product may be good, might not be good, but if your branding is good, then investors are more likely going to invest in you, invest in your product, and they will listen to you. Even if you're incorrect, they'll listen to you if the product isn't good. So over here, I did not mention quality. Although quality is important if you want your business to last longer, investors these days, they don't usually look at quality. They take a look at trend, hype, the keywords, the things that they can keep on repeating in presentations and PowerPoints, and then they take a look at quality. Quality is important for sustenance, and also you don't want to get absolutely roasted online. You don't want that. You don't want people to roast you online. Okay, if you like solving problems, how many of you like solving problems here? Okay, anybody give me an example of what problem you recently solved? I understand, no problem. Okay, how many of you like repetition? Keep doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, all right. Okay, how many of you desire to grow and get bigger, more money? How many of you like money? Money. Okay, all right. How many of you would like to have a personal brand? Personal brand? Anybody? How many of you know what a personal brand is? Okay. All right, so anybody would like to define what a personal brand is? What does it mean?
It's basically setting up a company under your name, and it has a specific trademark that only belongs to you, and thus you produce services or goods under that trademark.
All right. So before you get into most professions in life, this is what I've learned from becoming a freelancer. You first have to be a problem solver. You're not really a game developer. You have to position yourself as a problem solver. Be willing to solve a task, the same task multiple times, exactly the same way. With slight changes, and you should have the capacity to not get bored by that. You should have the desire to grow and get bigger, more money. And yes, there are certain people who do not like the concept of getting more money. That is fine if you want to, but there are other people around you. If you don't really personally like money, probably you want to accumulate money so you can help those that you care about. Because if you do not care about yourself, I can guarantee you most people in the world are living for other people. So for them, you would also sometimes need money to help them. So basically, just if you do not like the concept of going big and getting bigger, getting more money, then I'd recommend think about the people that you care about. Probably at one time they will need your help. Go for them, if not for yourself. Yes, I'm trying to manipulate you people into liking money. Okay. I have to, it's my strategy. I have to, this is my obligation. When I became a freelancer, I was like the day I become a top-rated pro freelancer, which I am on Fiverr.com, by the way. Never thought I'd make it. I am a Fiverr top-rated pro seller, which is the top 1%. I'm over there. And since then, it was my goal that I'm going to help people who are in the 9-to-5 hell escape it. So it's my obligation to try to help you. Because if the world gave me an opportunity, it's just my...
You've been in this industry for the past decade, right?
Yeah, 2014.
Have you stuck to game development, or have you branched into other...
I'm into music. Yeah, I'm into music. I'm into writing. I'm also into motivational speaking, but I'm not a very good motivational speaker because, unfortunately, I'm going to say something that if you do not succeed in life, it's your luck. Really, it's your luck. Like, if somebody asks me that what is the one thing that you require in life, I'd say it's luck. Although people would say it's like hard work and everything, well, there are two ways how this world works. Things either come running towards you or life forces you to run towards them. When we say hard work, we don't really know whether that hard work we're doing is whether it's our luck that is making us work hard, or whether it's us ourselves that it's our decisions, our choices that are making us work hard. Because trust me, whenever somebody tells me, whenever somebody asks me that how did you reach where you did, I'd say chance and luck. And you can say whatever you want, God, universe, luck, chance, computer simulation, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if you, I'm in a university, so I'd say that if you believe in a divine power, just believe in that divine power. Because without them saying yes or no, nothing is going to happen. But if you believe chance rules everything, then believe in chance. But do what you can and believe in the process, enjoy the process. So yes, it is true, and I will maintain that most people in the world will not succeed. But it's your obligation, it's your duty to try. And that is the truth. You know many people in this world that do not succeed. Yet they're wonderful people, capable people. And objectively, they're more capable people than me that are not doing well. But yeah, that's how life works. That's how life works. Anyway, so there are two ways to, as far as I can tell, to succeed in game development or in any field. Either, when we're doing a job, we are a cog in the machine. We're all our cogs in the machine, really. There are very few good bosses that genuinely care about you. That's reality. But you can succeed if you become a giant cog in the machine. If you have some kind of a leverage. If this is a machine, if you imagine a machine, you're a giant cog, and if that cog falls off, the entire machine just stops working. Either you become that in any profession that you go, in any profession that you choose, you either become the giant cog or you become the machine yourself. Now, the reason why I say business owner and I do not say freelancer is because my coach, and now I'm saying this to you, my coach said that you're not a freelancer, you're a business owner. And it's your obligation to try to grow and to solve, and the more you grow, the better you would be at solving problems, and the more resources you will have to solve more problems, and thereby you will help more people. And if you're not doing it just for the sake of earning, then you're doing it for the sake of helping other people. Because the bigger you are, the more people will know your name, and then they will definitely come to you, get your problem solved in the correct way, get their problem solved in the correct way. And if you're good at solving a problem, then it is, I believe, you should grow so that you can help other people and take money as a reward. Honestly, money is a reward for doing a good job. That is what I believe. Alright, so I would like to share the concept of Ikigai, which is a Japanese philosophy. So people say, do what you love, okay? Do what you love, and you will never have to work a single day in your entire life. Well, that is true, but that's not really for success. So in Ikigai, what we have is in this order. Now, you can look at this in any order, but I look at it clockwise from the very right, which is, first of all, find out what the world needs. Find out what the world needs. All right? The second thing is whether they're ready to pay you for it. Pay anyone for it. That's the second thing. The third thing is now find out what you're good at. And the third, what you love. Right? In that order. And that is the true way to success. In fact, people say that you should do what you love, right? That is true. But most people who have succeeded in life, one thing that they'll say is they have sometimes done things that they hated. Accounting I don't like. There are many things that I don't like. There are certain things that I don't like. I have to do them. That small 2-3% that I like, I'm actually doing. There are some things I really dislike. I dislike trying to get projects. I dislike communication. I dislike delivering files. There are many things that I dislike, but I have to do them. Just for that 3 or 4% of the things that I like to do, I have to do all the things that I hate. And most people are going to say that. Like many people say, if you take a look at Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and everybody, they basically solved problems that the world needed, and they were willing to pay for it, or they did not know that the world is actually end up paying them for it. So it's basically that. So Ikigai is a Japanese concept. This is the modern form of Ikigai. The old form was Ikigai was actually developed to help prevent suicide. It was to help prevent suicide. In Japanese culture, suicide was a very common thing. So Ikigai was anything that can help you wake up in the morning, essentially. The modern definition, because this product had to sell, the people who do Ikigai and preach Ikigai, they had to sell it, so they came up with this. Whether you'd still call it Ikigai or not, I know that this is something that I do not know of a single person that hasn't done this and hasn't succeeded. And this, if you find this, you're lucky. And you find this literally by chance. Most people find this by chance. They find it accidentally. All right? Most people that I know, they find it accidentally. Some of them, they find it, they have medium success, but the ones that have abnormal success, usually they find this, usually. So let's talk about the scope of, does anybody have any questions? Sorry. All right. So the scope of game development in general, almost anything can be gamified. So most of you are stats people here. You can gamify this as well. You can gamify Ikigai. You can, this is a Venn diagram, right? Yes. Yeah, this is a Venn diagram. You can gamify Venn diagrams. You can make a game out of Venn diagrams. You can make a game out of charts. Now, how you do this, of course, I would like to sit, but if anybody, if you want to develop a game based on stats, we can sit and talk about how you can, make a concept into a game and then help people learn from that, like probability or anything like that. We can basically I'm making a fighting game on maths. So what happens is, it is basically a game where you add or subtract, but it's a fighting game. So what happens in the game is there are two characters on either side, and if you answer correctly, the person did not answer correctly gets attacked. It's like Tekken, except if you were answering maths questions. So it's like that. So
If you don't mind, I'm not asking for questions, but I have a question. Can you go to the Ikigai slide? Okay, yeah. So you were saying that most of us find it by chance, right? Most people find it by chance.
Yeah.
Is there any way that, for example, now that I know it, or the student know it, that Ikigai is a concept, is there any chance that they can condition their habits in a manner to maximize attainment of Ikigai?
yeah, they should basically, first of all, you should love success, right? But you should basically love the concept of succeeding in a worldly sense, but the goal should be to provide the world with what they need. The world comes first, then you. So that is the thing. You do not come first, the world comes first. That should be the mindset. The world, when it comes first, you would make sacrifices you would sacrifice some of the things that you desire for the sake of the world. As a reward, the world will pay you for the sacrifices that you make. So that is basically the mindset. That is my mindset, although there are certain people who say you should basically, you should put yourself first, but it doesn't suit my personality type. So I'm going to preach what I believe is correct. Although I might change my view on this in the future. My current version, and this is being recorded, so my current version says this. When I get older, I might change my view. Right now it's this, okay? So I'm admitting that I might change my view. Right now this has worked for me. If the world changes and I learn other concepts, I'm going to change my view. I'm totally open to that. I'm also a practicing Stoic. I practice Stoicism. So one of our main you can say way of living is that we accept change. If we are wrong, we accept it. So that's the thing. Okay. So a game is basically an interactive form of entertainment. So if you know that people spend a lot of time on watching films, reading books, games are just an interactive form of entertainment. They are exactly entertainment in the interactive form. And you don't have to be a programmer to work in the games industry. You can also be a statistician and you can work in the industry. I mean, there are, when they get analytics, these game development companies, when they get analytics, they need statisticians to to find out the probability that this person will pay at this particular time. What does that mean? When you have a person engaged inside of a video game, the purpose of a game development company is to make money from that user. The problem with that is that they need stats for that. They need somebody to analyze the stats that the game gives. And once they have that, they're going to ask you at what time we should show this ad to this user to make that user pay, or what is the likelihood that the user is going to pay us at this particular time. And that means that you might show them a weapon pack, a bundle, which is going to basically, at the time at which they're most likely to click and pay the game development company for it. So even being a statistician, you can work on games, and it's all going to be analyzing data, finding out why players are dropping at this particular level, and at what time they're most likely going to pay for this particular product. All of these things. So okay, so the Metaverse basics. So first of all, this comes down to business over here. So Metaverse, if you people do not know about the Metaverse was at one time a very, very big thing. In fact, Facebook, when they created Meta, it was to promote their Metaverse, which it failed badly. Metaverse of Facebook failed badly. But generally speaking, the hype surrounding Metaverse was such where if you said that you're making a Metaverse, you were most likely going to get an investment. You were most likely going to get investment because most people at that time, this was a thing that people actually were doing. Another thing is that again it comes down to the business and the business of game development, and the business in general is that game development at that time was a thing where they basically where you could produce most things without making a lot of efforts. That is because the technology was available for the Metaverse at the time. There were pre-made assets that you could just join together to make a Metaverse and tell to the investor, hey, this is a Metaverse, invest in me. And that's what they would do. And the another thing is that if you work on a Metaverse, the skill set that you get while working on a Metaverse is pretty vast. You as a statistician, you can work over there, improve your skills more, how players are interacting, which rooms they're going into, why they're going into, how much they're interacting with other people, what kind of interaction they're having in the Metaverse, stuff like that. And a Metaverse is basically a virtual world. That is what it is. It's basically a virtual world. Okay, so again, this for some reason the slides are not really. Okay, so we'll just view it like this because right now it's fine. Okay. So social media, so these are the people who can work on the Metaverse. So 3D graphics artists, modelers, okay, 2D graphic artists, economists, statisticians, backend developers. Do you know most of these terms, or should I explain them? Do you know what a backend developer is? Okay, a backend developer is the one that basically makes a server. When you log into Facebook, what you see in front of you, the form where you fill your username and password, that is the front end, because that is what the user is supposed to see. That data is sent over the internet to a server which processes that data, returns data back to the front end, where it then tells whether the login was correct or not, and then you proceed forward. And all those images that load in front of you, they're loaded literally from a server, which is just programming language. It is a programming language like Django in Python. It uses Python. Django uses Python. That's a backend technology, and the front end basically knows how to organize that data that is getting from the server so you can actually read it or view it. So that is what a backend developer is. A front-end developer is basically the person who makes the front end. Like this PowerPoint, it is not connected to a server, but what you see in front of you is basically the thing that the user interacts with. You're not really concerned about the code. So who can work on the Metaverse? Again, digital marketers can. If you're passionate about digital marketing, you can do that. Creative writers can work. Content creators, YouTubers can work on game development. They can work on promoting they can work on promoting games. Then influencers, they can basically be in the game development industry. Accountants, film and media professionals, photographers. Now the reason why film and media professionals and photographers can work is because they can actually tell when they're looking at a game in a scene view, they can tell whether the frame is correct or not, or whether the field of view is correct or not, or whether the image quality is good or not. So they can basically tell all of these things. So, okay. So this is something that I'm thinking I would probably will not do this, but it really depends on whether you want to do this or not. But since most of you are not interested in game development, you're just here to get an idea of this. This is what I've actually planned, that we are going to learn a bit about the metaverse. So we would create a basic scene, have rigid body physics, which is basically a term to describe a body inside of a Unity game engine, rigid body physics is basically a body inside the game world, any body, it can be anything, which has the physics of the engine on it. So every game engine is a piece of software, and it has code which tries to mimic the physics of the real world. So that is what it tries to do. So we're going to learn about a basic character controller. And we already did a bit, we already took a look at the business of game development, role play. We might do a little bit of role play where if you are interested in freelancing, you can be the client, I can be the freelancer, and we can talk a little bit about how we can negotiate and we can deal. We'll take a look at the Unity game engine. We'll take a look at the Unity engine marketplace, asset store, installing the Unity engine, and the Unity engine interface. But I'm thinking about skipping all of this today. I'm thinking about just showing you how the Unity game engine actually does the physics. So even though you're stats professionals, right? You're into statistics. I want to tell you how easy it is to get something moving inside of the Unity game engine. That is what I would like you to know, so that you do not need to, if you are not even going to get into game development, I would like you to know how easy it is, just so that I can probably convince you to at least attempting to do this. So this is basically how the Unity game engine looks like when it's all, it's in its full glory. This is how it looks like. So you can actually see by that is the 3D view right there on the top left. That's the 3D view of the game world. This is how the game world looks like if I am to add a capsule, which you can see that is a capsule, and there's a plane underneath that. Now these are all of the things that a person adds in the Unity game engine. So this is where we are adding these things. Let me see where it is. Okay. So over here, when I open the Unity game engine, this is how an empty scene looks like over here. I'm adjusting some camera values. But you can see how easy it is to basically get a plane inside of the game engine, as the game engine already provides that over here. So over here I'm just adjusting the camera properties. That's not super important. What is important is the realization that only by clicking a button, going to the 3D object menu, which is right over here, I'm going to create a plane, which I'm going to create right now, there, and you can see that that's the ground. That is the ground that the player is going to work on. So this is basically the ground, and of course I'm going to scale it a bit, making it a little bit larger, but that is done using a single click. That is how easy it is to just make a ground and get things running. Okay, so the capsule comes over here. This is basically, I'm showing the material, how you can go from lit to unlit mode. So this is basically how you see it with lit and unlit. So that is basically a demonstration of the rendering power of the engine. So, and that is the IDE. This is, I believe, I do not know which IDE do you people use, or if you even use one, but generally speaking, Python uses PyCharm. This is called JetBrains Writer. So this is for C# scripting. So this is for that. So over here, I'm going to create a 3D object, which is the capsule, and this is the basic shape for all player characters. Basically, a capsule that runs around, and you can then insert a avatar or anything that you want from here. But after the mesh of the mesh renderer component, which you can see over here, if you take a look at the components on this side, on the right, there are components over here. That mesh renderer component, that is the one that is causing the capsule to look the way it is. If you turn that off, it's going to be invisible. You'll not be able to see anything. So instead of this, you can put whatever character you want, basically. So it's that simple, where you can replace it with a character. So over here, I'm going to basically show you the code over here. I'm just going to go over here, and I'm just going to show you the code first, and I'm going to tell you how easy it is to insert it. Okay, literally this is the only lines of code are required to get this system up and running. That is it. All the rest of the things are taken care of by the engine. Now, without going into a lot of detail, what I'm going to tell you is that that float value, that floating variable value, is basically getting the vertical axis from the keyboard. So that's W and S. In video game development, W and SD keys are usually used to move around, and the arrow keys. So the arrow keys up and down, that's vertical. Left and right is horizontal. So now this makes sense. Input.getX is vertical, that means we're getting the vertical input. The horizontal is this. So right now I'm basically changing this. I made a few mistakes over here, but over here I'm going to change this to horizontal. Right now it says vertical. I'm actually about to change this to horizontal, which I'm going to do right now. You'll see it'll say horizontal now. So horizontal is this. When you click left and right, the character will rotate like this. And that is all that you need. And right now you can see at the bottom, this rigid body.transform.rotate, vector3 up is this, and vertical input. So it says vertical input, it should have said horizontal input. That is basically, I named it incorrectly. Whatever the input is, left or right, rotate in the vector3 up by this modifier 100f, which is 100 float variable. 100 is the value of the float that is being multiplied by time.delta time. Now time.delta time is a difficult concept to understand, but it basically means that if time is in this engine, using its delta, you have to move it. You have to move it like this. This is what this is doing. This is what this code is doing. So it's not independent of time, because if it would be independent of time, then if your computer stutters, then you would see like stutters like that. Because these engines and most computer engines and most rendering engines run by frame time. So if the frames are missed, then if your engine is not basically calculating the time and considering time with it, you will see jitters in your movement. It's going to basically be like if something's going to get stuck, like a bad blender. Well, everybody knows what an ice blender is, right? When it gets stuck, you can see it kind of like does this, right? That's what the engine does. So anyway, so in the other lines of code, that is how we move a rigid body using physics. You can see it you can take a look at this. Now I'm taking the vertical input, which is up and down. So up and down arrows, taking the input from that, and then I'm using this rigid body.add force. Now everybody knows what a force is. Inside of the physics world, inside the game world, I'm adding the force in the forward of that object. Wherever it's looking forward, wherever the forward is going to move towards that using the physics force. That is what it's doing. Now, using only these lines of code, I click the play button, which means that I'm telling the engine to run the code. This is what happens. I can rotate and move around. And this is the basics for all metaverses, because when you have this capsule, you can basically rotate it anywhere you want, and usually the camera is on the eyes where that red thing is. That is where the eyes of the player are. So the player can easily use the left and right arrow to look here and there, and then move forward towards an object, or move backwards if they want to. So that is basically the easiest thing that a person can do to get something done in game development, because that's the basics of game development. Right now I'm just changing the forces so the character moves slightly slower. And you can see that I'm basically rotating. This is actually like real world physics. If you're going around a circle, this is how it looks like using input. And you can see that I'm just making these 8s or just making the circle. And you can see that the physics is quite accurate. Like it's like the circle, you can see that the movement is very accurate. It's not like, the calculation is pretty perfect in the sense that the movement is very consistent. Even though it's a circle, it's a perfect circle. So it's not moving here and there, it's just a perfect circle. And the reason why this a body stops is because it has real world drag on top of it. Like if there were no physics on this rigid body, I would release the buttons and it would just go off. It would just go off. The reason it has a rigid body, if you take a look over here, it has a rigid body component. That is physics. So the physics of the wall is literally stopping the body from moving, just like you would if you stop, friction causes you to stop. This is exactly how it's working. So that's basically it. That's what I wanted to present to give you an idea of how we start working on the metaverse. When we present this to an investor, we usually start with the smallest thing that we can start with. Usually we have environments as well, and we take a look at the Unity Asset Store, which we did not take a look at today. We take a look at the Unity Asset Store, and what we do is we basically use the Unity Asset Store to come up with some assets.
Sorry, just have a question. You're using the Unity engine, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you use the Unreal engine? Is it like significantly better?
The Unreal Engine is significantly better for big budget games that have a team behind them and they have dedicated developers, programmers, artists for a particular task in Unity. First of all, Unity has the biggest asset, so I believe it is bigger than, or Unreal Engine and Unity probably have the size of the asset store is probably the same. But the amount of resources, the amount of indie game developers, and the way Unity is designed is more indie game friendly, indie game developer friendly. Unreal is good. First of all, it's very bulky, right? It's a very bulky engine. Another thing is that it has got a lot of it has a lot of components which a person doesn't really require for a task as simple as this. Like for it is true that there might be, I don't use Unreal Engine, there might be solutions for the metaverse, but Unity, generally speaking, has more resources, also more in demand than Unreal Engine. Usually when you take a look at Unreal Engine, most people are already like, this is going to be a big budget game. So unless you have like a $500,000 budget, Unreal Engine shouldn't be.
And if someone was to get into game development, suppose using Unity, how long would it take to learn the basics or the fundamentals?
Well, you already learned one of the basics today, so I'd say.
I mean, learning in objectives, looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, well, I would say that learning the basics is going to take you about 4 to 5 months, right? But learning the concepts of how things work, if you already know about physics and how maths works, it's not going to take a very long time. Like, you kind of understood that I was adding a force, how I was rotating. The things that you would need to take a look at is vector maths, how the vector maths work inside the Unity game engine. If you know that, which I did not know, which if you know that, it'll take 6 months for you to at least get vector controllers and physics working and everything like that working. So yeah, that's it. And of course, you can get very proficient with basically the more problems you solve, the better you will get at it. But the basic things are, first of all, if you know maths, you already know quite a lot about game development. It's just about taking the maths and knowing how the game engine is using that maths to do the things that it does. So that's the thing. Okay, so we are moving on to the Q&A section if anybody wants to ask questions or anything at all.
Are there other types of physics besides rigid physics?
You can replace Unity physics with Havoc physics, I believe. And I believe that rigid body is using physics X, I believe. The NVIDIA's physics X, I believe it's using that. So I believe it is. I think Havoc is a replacement for the physics engine which people use. I've seen them in games. But generally speaking, since I'm basically a freelancer, people have never asked me to replace physics engines because we never go into very complex physics or building destruction or anything like that. We don't go into that.
What's the biggest project you're working on?
The biggest project I'm currently working on is a guinea pig breeding simulator. It's going to take years to complete because that is a breeding simulator, like we breed guinea pigs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a guinea pig simulator. So it's a simulator where literally the pigs have to give birth to other pigs, and that is like a very complex system.
Are you working with someone?
Yeah, I'm working with someone. Yeah, a client. The client. I'm working alone on the project. The client is the artist, and I'm working with them.
Can you give examples?
Yeah, so Pokemon Go was made in Unity. You can see all these Monument Valley. Some of these games I don't even know about. Cuphead was made in Unity. I know. I played this game. City Skyline. Now this is actually a city building game. City Skyline. This is a very complex game. Then Fall Guys is made in Unity. Escape Room. Look at how many games are made in Unity. Subnautica. Oh, I did not know Subnautica was made in that. That's quite interesting. All right. So yeah, these are all the games made in Unity. So quite a lot. But the main. So there's so many games that are made in Unity. One of the indie hits was Cuphead, and the other one was Subnautica.
Isn't Cuphead really difficult?
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's one of the toughest games that I've ever played. I didn't play it after that. I just basically the reason why Cuphead was popular was because of hype. But the game itself was actually pretty badly designed. In my opinion, it was pretty badly designed because it did not have a difficulty system.
It's two-dimensional? It's two-dimensional, right?
Oh, sorry, say again?
The game is two-dimensional?
Yeah, it's 2D. It's a 2D game, but the reason why it was popular and the reason why people wanted to invest in that is because it was using the old Mickey Mouse type graphics. So investors invested in that because the game looked good. There was a hype around that game. The trailer did very well. But the game itself, the product wasn't that good. It wasn't enjoyable, at least for me. For other people, it was people who wanted to challenge themselves, who probably had a less painful life than me. They probably liked it, but yeah, I didn't. So
games like Subnautica and NUST, they're also like big short games, and you said that at least for indie.
No, I did not say that. I said it's popular among indie game developers.
But like, what separates it from shipping it to maybe Unreal Engine? Like, what makes it?
Reputation. Yeah, reputation. Unity at one time had a very bad reputation. Jim Sterling is the great critic who basically covered this. That the Unity game logo made with Unity, that used to appear in a lot of bad quality video games. And the reason why it appeared was because people did not want to pay the fee that is required to remove the made with Unity logo. So the problem was that due to bad games, the reputation got so badly damaged that Unity is actually almost as powerful as the Unreal Engine, but not out of the box. You have to do things to make it look like an Unreal Engine game. Unreal Engine comes out of the box with all of the features enabled, whereas Unity you have to kind of work to get those features into that. They're almost the same. People still say that Unreal Engine games look a bit better than Unity, although with Unity 6 it was very it's hardly noticeable. But it is true that in Unite, the recent Unity event, they were promoting their low poly stuff. They were promoting their low poly stuff. Their high definition 3D render pipeline was also demoed. But a large portion of the YouTubers covered the low poly stuff that they were doing and the optimization of large 3D worlds which were using lesser amount of polygons than AAA games. So that's there.
Slightly off topic, what are some of your favorite games that you play?
Well, I'm a big fan of Tekken 8, right? Although I don't play it anymore. Witcher 3, I think, is the best game that was ever created. These days, I'm playing Subnautica, and also there's one other game that I was playing, Rage 2. Rage 2. Yeah. Any other question?
Are there any personality traits that are suitable and typically suitable for a game developer? For example, if you can comment on that, like ambiverts are more suitable for introverts or extroverts. And my second question is that is age a barrier into entering the video game development industry? And I want a very candid and honest reply to that.
Okay, so it is true that you need to have certain traits. You should first of all you should be a person that likes to solve problems. These are basically the things. Like you should love solving problems. You should not dislike solving the same problem over and over again. Like even if it's solved, you have to solve it another way using different lines of code. You should be able to do that. Ideally, you should learn game development before you're 30, in my experience. Although there are some people who got into game development even later. But what you're talking about is probably game programming. You can get into game development without learning programming. Generally speaking, you should have a little bit of knowledge about how game engines work and how physics works and how programming works and how these things are solved, but you don't necessarily have to be a programmer to get into game development. So that's basically the thing. Problem solving first, and the ability to tolerate the repetitive nature of game development. And also you must be comfortable sitting for very extended periods of time in front of a computer desk and to just code away or solve the problem. That's the generally, most business people do that, but in game development is specifically quite a lot. You may have to spend countless hours getting the pixel right, listening to clients' feedback, being frustrated.
Can you also comment in lifestyle management? If a person is a game developer, what is the role of a healthy lifestyle? Like boosting, I know that lifestyle.
Well, the first 5 or 6 years you will probably be in front of a computer desk for extended periods of time, and you will have no social life if you want to succeed. You'll have absolutely no social life, because if you want to succeed, if you're just taking game development without just to earn a paycheck, you don't want to grow, then you can have a social life. But if you really want to grow for the first 4 to 5 years, no social life whatsoever. In front of a computer desk, and then just until your eyes tell you to stop, you have to be on front of the computers. Yes, it helps us make our job easier.
But will it take your job?
I hope it does. So I can move on to something else.
Do you want to move on to something else?
If it makes more money, absolutely.
So you're not passionate about.
I am. But people, would you or anybody care about how passionate I am, or would they care about how much I am, how much I've grown, and how much influence I have over the world? Do people care?
To the AI revolutionary.
No, I did not, because I never thought AI would be taking jobs. Basically, I did not think so. I do not believe that AI will ever be good enough to basically replace human beings, as in the personal connection that I have with my clients. Because I always speak about this thing, that there are certain people who value honest human beings and honest human work than a machine doing the simple same task. Like there are machines that can cook food now. Literally, there are robots that can cook food, but the chef whom you personally connect with, they have this particular style which is very difficult to replicate for a robot. That the machine will not be able to do. And another thing is that some people enjoy the process of game development. They enjoy communicating with the person that is developing the game for them. They like the creative process. You cannot do that with a machine. You simply cannot have the conversation that you can with the person that you have to. Because for human beings, sometimes, like if the machine is completely agreeing, doing whatever you're saying, literally if the person is getting exactly what they want, they're going to get bored. They need some kind of a hiccup to basically keep progressing forward. After a certain while, even good things become boring. Like if I give you biryani, very good biryani every single day, you'll be sick of it. Anything else? All right, thank you.